Hello everybody and welcome to episode 152 of the Meet the Farmers podcast. I'm your host Ben Eagle, and today on the show I am reflecting back on last week's Cultivate Conference, which brought together nearly 300 farmers, rural business people and rural professionals at Heaton House Farm on the Cheshire-Staffordshire border. Now, Cultivate is all about inspiring rural businessmen and women to take a step back from their business, reflect on their own skills and personal development, network with others, and take some time to work on rather than in their business. It was quite a full-on day, I must say. I was absolutely exhausted by the end of that, I have to say, because there was just so much to take in. Brilliant speaker sessions. And there were some breaks as well for networking. And it was great to be able to talk to all the speakers during the breaks. And in today's podcast, I'm going to share with you those discussions. The speakers included Marcus Child, who is one of the UK's most successful business coaches, co-CEO of food brand COOK Rosie Brown, Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones, who's better known as the Black Farmer, and Britain's greatest ever downhill skier and presenter at the BBC's Ski Sunday, Chemmy Alcott. First up though, here I am with the conference founders and chief organisers Simon Haley from SRH Agribusiness and Andy Venables from Hills Green. Right, I've somehow managed to get Simon and Andy together, which is a miracle given how busy they are. Of course, we've been away for a few years. But in my opinion, we've had one speaker session so far, and definitely just as good as last time. Andy, your take so far? Are you pleased?
Very pleased, Ben. I think we're just back with a bang, and it's just brilliant to see so many people wanting to get back together and listen to this sort of content.
Yeah. What did you want to achieve this year?
I think the first thing, Ben, was let's just put another event in the diary. Let's give people that same inspiration, that motivational feeling. I mean, look, we're doing this interview stood outside on the grass, gorgeous weather, but no one's forced to be here. We've got nearly 300 people in the room who want to be here, who've got that entrepreneurial passion, mindset in some shape or degree. That's what we wanted, to have a room full of people like this.
Yeah. I mean, Andy, yourself at Hills Green, you've seen, if anyone looks at your LinkedIn page, you'll see that you've seen massive growth recently. I'm just looking at COVID, I suppose. What impact do you think that has had as a whole on sort of the kind of delegates who are here today, and perhaps their thinking going into this conference?
Well, I suppose the conference is focused on change and embracing change, and if the one thing that COVID did, it definitely changed things up a bit. I think from our perspective, Hills Green, so we're an agricultural digital marketing agency, and all of a sudden these agricultural businesses couldn't get out to see their customers via down the farm drives or through trade events. So they went online, they pivoted, and that's, I suppose, our businesses benefit off the back of it, and equally those guys that are here at Cultivate today are looking at what they need to do differently. There's so much coming down the track from an agricultural perspective, and it just gives them a day out of their business to think about their business.
Yeah, I mean, Simon, as Andy was saying, I mean, it is a tough time for farmers. I know that we in the agricultural industry are sort of, we're told a lot that we focus on the negative too much, but today's a lot about focusing on the positive and mindset shift.
Absolutely. Change is a constant, and especially for our industry, and it's trying to get that mind shift from it's a challenge and change is always a challenge to actually it's an opportunity. Let's deal with it, let's get in front of it, let's get on top of it, let's be proactive to change, not reactive to change. And half of that is having the right mindset in the first place, that life happens, bad things happen, challenges happen. How can we turn it into an opportunity? How can we be in front of it? That's what we really want to kind of make people focus on and give them the tools and the concepts to do that. And everything that we've seen this morning with Marcus has hopefully put people out of their comfort zone, Ben, but not put them out of their depth.
Absolutely. You're going to be back next year?
That is the exciting thing, that after today, me and Andy need to sit down and go, what is Cultivate? You know, the first time we did it, obviously it was then very quickly followed by the pandemic. By default, you know, we've kind of then tried to put it in place in Jan 21 and Jan 22. We're now here in May 22. But for us, Cultivate is a way of life, without that making it sound too cheesy. We want people, when they're thinking about leadership, entrepreneurship, challenging themselves in agriculture, to think of Cultivate. So absolutely we'll be back next year, but where that should be and in what kind of context and what size and scale, that's the exciting thing to discuss.
Guys, we've had a great lunch. We're about to go into this afternoon session. You're really, really busy at the moment, so I'll let you get on, but thanks so much for joining me.
Cheers, Ben.
Brilliant, thank you.
Andy Venables and Simon Haley. We started the conference with a full morning of mindset training and reflecting on leadership with eminent business coach Marcus Child. Now, there was so much in this, from sense of identity and the process of and feelings behind decision making to understanding values and shifting company culture. And in my view, Marcus gave every single one of us there something to reflect on. I sat down with him after the morning sessions to talk through some of the aspects of his keynote. So I'm with Marcus Child, who is our opening speaker here today at Cultivate. Wow, a huge amount in there. Marcus was talking for now on 2.5 hours with a short break in between, and he assures me that his voice is absolutely fine now. But I want to pick out on a few of the highlights that you were bringing through. Firstly, I suppose the power of dreaming big, and the power of picturing where you're going. Simple question, how big is big enough?
Oh, that's a really good question. It needs to be big enough to excite you and create intensity. So it needs to be something which you can't do. You don't even have a clue about how you're going to make it happen yet. But that's the way to get the brain really working in its full resources. So it's asking something which you'd love, that your heart says would be brilliant, but your brain doesn't know how to answer yet. But I always say the picture's not big enough unless when you talk about it, it excites you. You get sweaty palms, or you get a kind of proper kindling of the spirit. And if it doesn't do that, then you haven't had a state change.
Okay, and actually that sense of feeling, which you certainly touched on today, the senses themselves, take us through the importance of that.
Right, so the feeling, I'll say one more thing about that. If you say to a child, what we're doing this weekend, if they are talking about something they're really looking forward to, you see their whole physical lines of their body change, and there's a sense in which that's the kind of excitement you know's happening when there's a really big goal, and the goal's big enough. The senses, a suggestion works really deeply in the unconscious if it's multi-sensory. Okay, suggestion, if it's a compound suggestion, so it's visually exciting to you, and there's sounds attached, and there's a sense of emotion attached to it too. A compound suggestion like that is likely to live in your unconscious much more firmly than it otherwise would. That's why stories work really well. When you tell a story, it's normally got emotions in it, it's got pictures that people make in their heads, and your voice is modulating. So that's a powerful communication as well, a narrative, if you like.
And actually that was one of the things you called on delegates today to do, is actually literally write a letter to themselves, speaking to them directly. Culture change. Changing cultures, perhaps thinking, which farmers are great at this, thinking, we've always done it this way, but perhaps now's the time to change. You said that it doesn't take long to change a culture, but what would you advise would be the first step to take?
Right, so that's agreeing the picture collectively. That's the real thing, which people don't dare do. I run this farm, I run this business, and what I say is the future, and I've got the vision. And I think if you involve other people to build the picture together from ground zero, you get much more chance of buy-in. I once did a goal setting for Autoglass, and the MD of Autoglass said, I'd like to make this goal happen. I've come to the business because I'm the new MD, I've got an ambition for this company. I said, well, who's going to help make the goal? He said, I've got 9 other leaders on the board. I said, who really runs the company? Well, we've got 100 branches, let's get those people in here. So we made a goal with 115 people, 2 days, really messy, really challenging. But people were there when the page was empty, and when they left, they felt like they'd made a contribution to an agreed picture. And when you build something together, then you want to fight for it afterwards, when it's under duress.
And I take it that rule is there whether you're talking about 100 people, 1,000 people, or just a few people on your team?
10, yeah, exactly, or 5 or whatever, yeah. But it's that thing about I was here when the page was empty. I helped craft and design and architect this thing.
And just finally, there's a huge amount of uncertainty going on in the farming industry at the moment. Your tips for dealing with uncertainty and staying strong through that time and staying focused, I suppose, on your vision.
Right. Well, if I'd had time today, I would have spoken about resilience. And I would have talked about resilience having 5 different fibres. So I imagine it like a cable and intertwined fibres. And the first one is the one about the goal, which is the one that gets your spirit. So I think there's something about how do you make that picture, but also find a mechanism to measure progress towards it. So there's this kind of spiritual fibre. There's also an emotional fibre, one about confidence. And so I want to work on that too. It's self-talk, personal confidence, trust. And then there's a piece on mental resilience, how you can be intellectually ready and prepared with all the arguments, contingency plans, strategies, etc. And you've learned as much as you can about the technology and opportunities in the market. So mentally you're on fire, emotionally you're really confident, spiritually your heart's in the goal, physically you're well, physically you're looking after yourself, so that when you feel fit and healthy, you make better decisions. I'm going running at the moment, I'm going to the gym, etc. people say, and therefore I'm making good decisions at work because my head's clear. And then lastly, social resilience, that sense of I can do this when I'm with others that really matter to me. So building team, being collaborative, being part of a community of others who are also on an uplifting trend.
Yeah. And just lastly on that, I suppose, what if you are a team of one? There's a lot of farmers out there who are teams of one, or at the very least they spend a lot of time by themselves. What advice would you give to them?
So, first of all, I would team up with others, so I'd make sure I've got a collective. Somebody once said you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. So who's in your head, who's cheering you on, who's giving you the uplift that you need. I'd also say that you can set goals in any of those 5 domains I mentioned. Set goals to improve your learning, set goals to improve your physical state, set goals to improve your collaboration with others, your sense of relationships, building those really well, and stuff you can do which makes you feel comfortable, excited in your confidence box, as well as the goal. Yeah, I think that's there's loads to do there, because by the way, if you look after yourself for resilience like that, then when you get hit by change and surprise, you're more likely to come back from it quicker, faster, more effectively than somebody who's not done that work.
Marcus, thank you very, very much, and thank you so much for what was a fantastic presentation today.
That's a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marcus Child. Next up are COOK's co-CEO Rosie Brown and the black farmer Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones, who were also 2 keynote speakers. Rosie spoke in her keynote about the importance of collaboration and cooperation, of innovation and trying new things, and critically of the importance of building great relationships and community. Wilfred inspired delegates with his story and challenged them to be audacious and take determined action to achieve their goals. I spoke to them both during a break and started by asking them to explain their key message to Cultivate delegates.
The key thing for me is this, is that anybody who is serious about going into business, this is the moment, if you're a rural business, to really start thinking about doing it, because the world is changing. And one of the things that I find are people wanting to engage with real people. Who are the real people behind the foods that they consume? For far too long, we've had to go through the gatekeepers, the supermarkets, but actually the time is now right for the people who are doing the work to have that relationship with the consumer. All too often, people who are producing foods forget the ultimate important thing is that how do you get that relationship with the end user?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything Wilfred just said, and I think the food sector and agricultural sector are actually completely codependent, so the more they can come together and have this conversation, the better. And I think today's been unbelievably inspiring about leadership, because I think that's what will get us there. I think it's everyone stepping up, collaborating, working together, building great businesses that can actually build a brighter future.
I mean, Rosie, one of the things that you were talking about in your presentation was good relationships and building good relationships, sustaining those good relationships. Advice in terms of learnings from how you've done that in your business?
Getting together with people, chatting, being open, being honest. I mean, I don't think there's anything rocket science for us. I think it's being about really intentional about relationships and then carving out the time to make time to see people, to understand them, to appreciate them, to get to know them.
Could I just add to that what Rose is saying is that our business are really dependent on relationships. We have to work at those relationships because the consumer is really taking a massive leap of faith when they come and buy our products, because we're not convenient, we're not easy, it's a big commitment. And it only works if you really understand the power of relationships. So that's not just the consumer, it's with the people that you employ. It's fundamental to your ethos that relationships are key. So everything that Rosie was saying earlier on, absolutely 100% agree with it. We're there because we're great at having good relationships.
Just one final thing. The other thing we've been encouraged to do today is look at ourselves, look at our businesses, reflect on what our values are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. Perhaps as a take home, are there any sort of actions that we could do, delegates who are here today, that could help us on reflecting on that?
Well, I get a lot of people who approach me wanting to start up their own business, and they will go on about what a fantastic product they do. Having a good product is very, very important, but that is not why people buy into you. They buy the why. What is it you stand for? And I think a lot more businesses really need to give a lot of thought about what is it that you stand for, because that's the reason why consumers will be buying into you.
And Rosie will give you the final word.
I agree absolutely with all of that, and I think what I found today is about building confidence. And now is the time that the food industry in this country needs that confidence more than ever to step out and build great businesses. And the message today has been really clear. It's like we're all leaders, we can all do it. Grow your confidence, let's do it.
Perfect. Thank you both, and thank you for being at Cultivate.
Thank you.
Rosie Brown and Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones. Now, skier and presenter of Ski Sunday, Chemmy Alcott is a full-time Winter Olympian who is no stranger to adversity. She told her story of ups and downs to a captivated conference audience, and it was clear how everyone could learn from her focus, drive and resilience. I sat down with her before her own keynote and began by asking her about her take on the conference so far.
I think going into a room like this with everyone in a similar sector who's facing the same hardships but all has passion, they're not driven by making millions. If they were, they would be in the banks in big cities. And you just see these individuals who are all out there wanting to make their team stronger and better and relay the passion they have, and just seeing everyone network together again, which is, we've slowly coming back into normal life, and we've started having sessions, but now we're seeing people be able to, later I'm going to get them up on an energy activation and they're going to have to hold hands. I'm like, this is post-COVID world now, no social distancing. I want you to lock elbows and ski with me on stage. So I just think it's just about that feeling of energy and coming together. And Marcus this morning was amazing. He's an incredible speaker. He's just got so much knowledge, and quite often when you see people of that intelligence, it's very hard to them impart with knowledge and it be understanding, but he does it so clearly and so well.
And before we started recording, we were talking about, I suppose it is a particularly challenging time for farmers at the moment. It always seems to be a challenging time for farmers, but it's particularly hard for the rural sector at the moment. You're here as someone who has, there's so many layers here to talk about, but you've had a lot of adversity as well. When you were 11, you broke 49 bones in your body. You've been through a lot at quite an early age.
Yeah, so I won the World Children's Olympics at 12 years old, which was 6 months after I broke my neck in a ski racing accident. And then I finished my career in 2014 in Sochi. So it's a very long career you have in skiing. I think because you know that you're going to get hurt, you have to be able to push yourself. It's something that I actually am really proud of, all the scars and the metalwork I have in my body, because they were all moments where I had the confidence to find my limit and go beyond that. And that's really hard for us to do, especially coming out of a pandemic. All of us live in our comfort zones. We don't know how to push ourselves. We don't know how to fail. We don't know how to take risks and learn from those risks. So that's why I'm here, to give people that confidence back, to say, if I can do it skiing 92 miles an hour and there's a helicopter and 2 years in a wheelchair at the end of it, but it's something that I'm proud of, then hopefully they get a little bit of inspiration from that they can go out there every day and be their best too.
How do you keep yourself motivated? And especially, I suppose I'm going back to it, and you see this a lot in sport generally, going from, say, junior to senior, going through all those experiences growing up. How do you keep that motivation, and also, where does that drive come from? As
a ski racer, it's quite a unique sport. I'm very fortunate to go to a lot of events with athletes and former athletes who are Olympic gold medalists, and I don't think I've ever met anyone with the same passion for their sport as I do. I love the mountains. I love being able to push myself out there to be stronger, better, faster. And I retired actually because a surgeon told me that if I didn't retire, they'd have to amputate my leg if I crashed again. And that fear of taking, not racing away, but the whole sport that I love away was really, really scary. And so that was when I retired, and then so fortunate to fall into my dream job, which is Ski Sunday. But I think I'm driven by passion. I never saw this as an opportunity to make a living, and that's why I can overcome adversity. I can come back from the injuries, no funding, because the grass isn't greener. I am able to do something that I love doing every day, and I feel that energy in this room today as well. You know, everyone is choosing to be here. They want to be here because they want to make a difference.
You played tennis as a junior, didn't
yeah.
you, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm interested in, again...
I would never have made it in tennis.
Yeah, talking about choice.
Yeah.
Were you ever faced by that winter sports or tennis decision?
Yeah, I was. I was a really good junior player, but I would not have made it as a tennis player, and I had to make that decision quite quickly at 11 years old, because that's when I was really getting my teeth into skiing. And I went to New Zealand for the first time for 3 months to ski on my own when I was 10, and it was down there that I loved tennis, but I hated the psyche behind having a direct battle with a competitor. Yeah. So that person at the opposite end of the net to me, they wanted to beat me. They hated me for that, 2 hours of that game. And I really struggle with that because I'm a people person. Whereas in skiing, I think because there's so much danger involved, when I throw myself down a mountain and one of my peers comes down and beats me by a couple of seconds, you shake their hand and you have that respect because they have gone further on the limit than you. And at the end of the day, it's such a dangerous sport that you respect that. You take your hat off to them. So it's a very different environment. All my best friends are ski racers. Okay. I have no best friends from tennis. It was not like that at all. It was like, I want to beat you, I want to put you down, I'm going to get in your head. And I really struggled with that.
Okay. Because certainly, as a farming industry, one thing that we sort of pride ourselves on is coming together at times of struggle. So how can that strength as an industry be used at a time like this?
I mean, community, when you're facing adversity, is everything. It means that people talk about the struggles they're facing. If you feel alone and you're out there solo, you put it under the carpet, you push it and you don't deal with it, and it manifests itself at a really tough time later on. Whereas you have this community, you're all going through this together, you can all share resources, knowledge, strategy, and I just think that's imperative to feel like that. And we're the same in the club situation in racing in Britain right now. I run my own ski club, and there's 10 other ones, but we all do at the heart want the same goal, and that's to make sport accessible to all, and we want to make little champions who grow through confidence through skiing. And the farming industry in the UK is the same. It's not one farm against another farm. It is a community, and we are a nation who has to pull together to support ourselves in order to survive, and I think we're seeing that more than ever right now.
Chemmy, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks so much.
Final speaker of the day, Chemmy Alcott. Now, I hope that's given you a flavour of the kind of conversations and lessons of resilience, hope and strength that we were all having at Cultivate. I know that talking about leadership and tackling adversity isn't exactly the normal kind of topic on the podcast, but in reality, as all farming listeners will know, and indeed any business owner listening will know, they are things that are relevant to all of us every single day. Farmers and business owners are, after all, problem solvers, which was actually something that we were talking about quite a bit at the conference as well. I want to thank Andy Venables and Simon Haley for inviting me to the conference and for everything that they and their team did to make the day such a success. Well done, guys. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. Thank you also to all the speakers and to everyone else who I met and spoke to on the day. Truly inspiring, and I hope that I'll see you again next year. To find out more about Cultivate, you can visit the website, which is cultivateconference.co.uk, or follow them on Twitter or Instagram at cultivate_conf. If you are a first-time listener to the podcast, please do give it a follow wherever you are listening. I'd really appreciate that, and I'd also really appreciate if you could give us a shout-out on social media. That would be great. Thank you in advance for that. Next time, we will be back to normal on the show, and I'll be speaking to Cheshire farmer Tim Dobson. Until then, though, I will leave you with some closing comments from some of the delegates at Cultivate.
I'm Martha Gilman, so I'm here from Pyash Farm, and I just wanted to come to sort of understand a little bit more about what Cultivate is about. Feeling really inspired. It's been a great day, lots of really fantastic speakers, especially Marcus this morning. I thought he was fantastic. Really good day.
Hello, I'm Alison from Bates Farm. Also just want to echo what Martha said. Yeah, really fantastic day, lots of good speakers. I think my personal favourite was probably Chemmy. I really like her quote that she had at the end. She said, there's no such thing as losing, you either win or you learn. And I think that's something that really stuck with me.
I'm Ken, I'm from Bioenergy Ingredients. Very inspirational day, very interesting, complete range of different speakers, different questions and answers that were out there. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and one thing we must all do now is take away the take-home messages and do something. Don't just forget about it and leave it in the drawer.
Absolutely, I think that's a great message to end this on, actually, because everyone will take something different. But what a fantastic range of speakers today. We'll see you next year. Are you coming back next year?
Yeah, we'll be back.
Definitely, most definitely.